shall we?
Roll that beautiful bike footage.
Oh, wait a minute. I gotta get levels up on this. All right, here we go.
Levels.
Hello, everybody. Welcome
What's up out there?
to Brad's Bagelteria. What happened to Caleb? Where'd he go? It did.
DJ Caleb has
in the
been
world?
censored.
Oh, wait a minute. I see what I did. Good grief, I'm being stupid. Try it now, Caleb.
Hey. Whoa.
All right. Technical difficulties. Brad was just bragging on us, and we're back to rookie mode now.
But we overcame them.
Overcame.
Yeah. Done with that? You done with that awesome bagel there?
Sorry,
Brad?
I had to finish my bagel.
Yeah. So Brad introduced us to a new bagel shop last week, and he had to play Chef Brad this week and one up him. And
Boy, did he.
I didn't one up them.
yeah, you did.
Whatever.
Yeah. That said, Dan's Bagel Shop in Trophy Club. I don't know if there's others or not. That's the only one. Only look, man. Good stuff if you're looking for a bagel with a schmear.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it better, though, coming here unexpected to have it, as opposed to him saying, I'm making homemade bagels, and you get excited on the way here, but then you show up and those are laying on the counter? I'm way more excited about that.
This is very exciting. That was very
Thank
good.
you, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate that tremendously.
Absolutely. I'm not going to make 6 bagels and eat them all myself.
Oh, I don't know.
I can feed myself for
Hold
a day
my
or two
beer.
there. Yeah.
I got to share it around.
That was very good. So what we had everything with garlic.
Yeah.
You said a salt bagel
Salt.
That's what I had, salt.
And then plain.
and plain.
It's great.
Okay. And so far, all you've tried is the everything, or have you tried something from the others too?
Yeah, I just tried the everything. Everything's kind of... I was thinking about this when they were cooking. I could smell the everything seasoning, and then I just started thinking, I don't know that I've had a bagel that wasn't everything in forever. Like, that is like my go-to bagel. But I did, when I was at Dan's, they have a blueberry pie.
Not when
bagel.
I was there. They didn't. And it almost crushed my soul.
Oh, hey, you got to show up.
I tell you what,
take what you get.
I was a little late. But that said, if you want to throw blueberries into one next time you make a batch,
I will
set that to the side.
I will.
Wouldn't
I
hurt
can do
my
that.
feelings.
I can do that.
So before we start talking bikes, and we will talk bicycles today. I'm almost certain of that.
Bicycles and blueberries?
At least once.
What is an everything bagel? What makes it everything?
It's got sesame seeds, poppy seeds, salt, garlic, and dehydrated onion, a lot of it. And then you can mix and match as you see fit,
Mine was quite tasty. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. More than welcome. All right. What's going on in cycling?
Well,
You missed a great TNSS last night.
did I? You missed a great yoga sesh.
But did I?
Yeah, I had a good time.
I did
Got
yoga.
these hips. Did you not see how open these hips are right now? Bro, none more open.
I love me some good open hips.
Oh, boy.
I did yoga at the climbing gym a couple of weeks ago. I want to start making it a habit. On Monday night, 7 o'clock, they do what they call a climber flow.
Yeah.
And it's specifically for opening your hips. Or that's one of the things they target. And just stretching out your, not psoas. Psoas is here, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, or your
Those are abductors.
IT bands.
Okay.
IT bands. And it's painful in the process, but man, afterwards you just feel like, I could fuck. It's so good.
Well, the one we do on Tuesday and Thursday when we do them is I can't remember the name of it, but it's more stretching than yoga.
Yeah.
It's like long 2 or 3 minute holds.
Yeah.
Of not pose holds,
Yeah.
but like stretching.
Yeah. Very
And,
cool.
feels great.
I wish I would have started yoga decades ago, because it's one of those things that I always kind of scoffed at, And then the more I do it, the more I realize this shit works. There's a reason they've been doing it for thousands of years, you know?
Do you remember when we were doing it while you were trying to change your tire? This guy,
I almost spit my coffee out.
This dickhead always gave me a hard time about skin walls.
Right.
On my bike.
Oh, yeah. And back to the behind your back conversation. He gives you shit about that when you're not here.
Well, ask him how many flats I've had on Wood Ape Ramble and how many he's had.
I bought brand new fucking tires for that
Not
trip.
just regular tires. These things look like monster truck tires.
Those weren't the ones.
Those were like 2.6s. Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
No,
buddy.
I ran those Cannondales, whatever they were called, the Terravelt Cannondales.
Oh,
tires that were like
cannonballs. No.
I ran those for like 6 months leading up to that, and those things were like 1,100 grams a piece. It was like my swinging 2 bats before getting the batter's box, and then I bought brand new mezcals to go on that trip. Those tires were like
those are the 2.3s then, 2.35s.
I'm pretty sure I ran the same thing I always do: 2.6 front, 2.35 rear.
I mean, he's even making fun of me as we're leaving. Within that very day, he's giving me a hard time, and then we get on top of this climb, and he yells out he's got a flat, and it takes him so long to change it. We start doing group yoga in the middle of the trail.
That's not a false story. I was probably a little gassed, maybe out of sorts, if you will. And I just
it was a safe trip.
It was safe. We may have had a safety meeting, and I couldn't get out of my own way. I can't even remember. Was that I've been guilty of this at least once. I always tell everybody, check for thorns where you just go throwing a tube in there. And I can't remember if it was that trip that I did that or just threw a tube in there and it fucking flatted immediately.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
Oh my gosh. Hoyt brought that up last night. I showed him the Ride Now tube, that pink one.
Yeah.
And he goes, man, this thing is insane. He goes, you better make sure you check for thorns.
That guy's got a good memory.
He's so good.
He is. He'll throw him out there.
So that was a bikepacking trip, is that correct?
Yeah, Wood Ape Ramble. Yeah.
Okay.
That was
not sure.
Super epic.
Gee, I wonder if there's people out there that have questions about bikepacking.
Oh.
What a great segue.
Man.
Our buddy Dan sent in some questions. Let me. I should have had him pulled up. I apologize.
I've got it pulled up.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, you're probably better at reading.
Go for it, Jamie.
Am I better at reading than you are? Question number 1. Having the shutter precision die.
Is there an introduction to the email?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Can we frame the conversation here?
This is my first day, guys. Greetings to the beautiful voices of wisdom. Why didn't I lead with that? That was amazing.
See?
That was a great opener.
Thanks, Dan. Oh, it says voice, though. Not voices.
That would be Brad.
Okay.
It does say voices.
I know, it does say voices. Greetings to the beautiful voices of wisdom! ! I've been cycling for about 10 years, some gravel, mostly mountain biking, but a beginner to bikepacking with an itch for wilderness adventure. Fantastic intro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently in the early stages of building out my Salsa Fargo frame set.
I wonder if he has a steel Fargo or a titanium.
You know, I feel like you bougie. I feel like you boozy bitches that have Thai Fargos say it.
Yeah.
If you have a Thai Fargo, you're going to say I have
building
a Thai
up my Thai Fargo frame set.
Yeah. Like when I say my Stella, I don't say Stella. I say Thai Stella.
And to be fair, it is an important distinction.
Well,
yes.
You pay a premium. You might as well flaunt it a little bit.
Well, but I mean, I think it puts a good canvas to paint on in that. If we're talking about building up a Thai bike, we may talk about that slightly differently than building up a steel bike. We might have slightly different recommendations. Oh, well, this is a Thai bike rider. Maybe a wolf tooth does make sense in this situation, sort of thing.
And nobody builds a Thai bike on a budget. So it's kind of like if you're going to build a Thai bike, you know that they're going to appoint it properly.
Generally speaking, I would agree.
Yep.
Anyways, sorry.
Please do continue.
Okay. So he's got a Salsa Fargo frame set that he's building up for bikepacking, and he has some questions regarding his bikepacking setup. Question number 1, having the Shutter Precision Dynamo front hub for power generation, what is the reliable option or options for harnessing this power to provide charging of USB devices and recommendation for cable routing?
I'll start real quick.
You go ahead.
I'm going to start at the end. Cable routing, depending on what year Fargo you have, your Firestarter fork may or may not have internal routing on the right fork leg. It should come right off of the hub axle and go right up and come out of the crown. But other than that, it's going to be pretty specific to whatever light you're running beyond that. And then reliable for harnessing this power. So what I generally recommend is a through charge battery bank that's big enough to charge whatever you think you need to charge. But it's important that it's a through charge so you can charge while you're riding, charge the battery bank, and then still power
and some power stuff off of the battery.
Luna.
Sometimes those chargeable components only work one way at a time. So be cognizant of that when you're setting up a Dynamo setup.
Mm-hmm. And then also your light system. I mean, whatever you're running,
So I have experience with this stuff, though I'm not an electrical scientist. And we were talking about this on Sunday during our ramble, right before you came out. You were still wearing your pajamas.
Whatever. It's making bagels.
I have a Sun Hub, so I'm not familiar with Shutter Precision, but I hear they're great. So yeah, I don't know much about them.
I'm going to keep my opinion to myself.
Okay. Well, no, I don't know. I haven't heard anything bad, but I don't know.
Look, everything gets better, right? Things make improvements. I went through 2 Shutter Precision hubs.
Okay.
Call it 6 months. I built up my first one, went on bikepacking trip, and my hub quit working. Wouldn't do anything. And then I got a replacement, built it back up. 2 months later, it quit working again. So I said, fuck this, and I got a Sun, which is what I should have done in the beginning. In retrospect, the Sun, there's a noticeable difference between when you're powering your light and when you're not. The hub actually lets off, if you will, whatever the magneto or whatever the mechanism is in there, actually relents when you're not actively charging. Whereas the Shutter Precision, it is so binding that you literally can't turn the axle in your hand when it's just a hub coming out of a box. And when you're riding it, you can almost feel the clicks. It's like click, 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 click.
Okay.
So it's got a lot more rolling resistance, and I found it to be not reliable. But I think there's definitely a high possibility that they just had a bad run of hubs, and I fell victim to it.
Remind me, Caleb, what were there specific components Dan was asking about running it?
Yeah, so
or running off of it?
Here's my answer based on my specific experience. I've got the K-Lite set up. I started with the Bikepacker or Backpacker. It was the single light, right? This was years ago.
Yeah.
And I've since upgraded to the Adventure system. K-Lite has 2 different groups. They have the racing system and they have the Adventure system. It's essentially this 3 bulbs that are in the unit.
Flood.
Right. So racing is flood. Yeah. Adventure is in reverse, I think. There's 3 lights. Yeah. One has 2 of one, the other one has 2 of the other. Yeah. And they sell it in a kit, runs directly off your Sun Hub or Precision. I have the old fork, so I just zip tie the lines to it. And that kit comes with a switch, so you can flip the switch up, and it will send all the power to your light. Mm-hmm. It also has a little bit of a battery in that pack that will power or keep that light slightly powered after you're done pedaling, so that you don't pull up to a railroad crossing or you don't come to a stop to do something to your bike and you're without light. I mean, it's fairly dim, but it's something.
So does my battery or capacitor?
Oh, I don't know.
Mine has a capacitor.
Maybe it's a capacitor. Yeah.
Mine has I have a Synwave, and it has a capacitor in it, which is almost annoying because it'll stay on for like 45 minutes after you stop riding.
Yep.
So
that power goes into a junction box, and that switch either sends all of the power to your light, or you can pull the switch it down, and it's got two of the. Here's where the challenge is with the way devices are. Before
you finish that, you're saying if you pull it down, it pulls all the power, and you tailed off.
Yeah. It'll push it to two of the older style USB 2 outlets. So that years ago, when your Garmin and your phone all used the old USB 2 powering cords, it worked great.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I did the Rat, I never once plugged in anything the entire time. During the day, I would charge my Garmin, and then I would run another line to a cache battery or my phone, and I just kept that circulating every morning. I would check it.
Yeah.
The problem is that hub, none of the hubs, from what I understand, can generate enough amperage. Is that the term I'm using? Is that the right term?
I believe
to power the new to power the devices.
3.1.
Yep, that are on or USB-C.
Yeah.
It requires more power. I learned this the last time we did Wood Ape Ramble. I had never checked to see how much power that thing was generating, and by the last day, my phone was dead.
Whoa. Hold on.
Okay.
Uncle Kevin's catching up.
Wait a minute. So none of the Dynamo hubs can power USB-C now? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is I think that it can, but it doesn't produce enough power into it of what the phone is using while it's turned on. Like, I don't think it pushes enough power. I mean, if you rode at 30 miles an hour for 9 hours, it would probably charge it, right?
Like we do.
I'm riding pretty quick.
Yeah.
So my workaround to that is I have I hate using this word for bikepacking because you want to use things that are light, but Anchor, A-N-K-E-R.
Yeah.
I use a cache battery to keep that charged. It has a USB-C out. Then I use that and run that to my Garmin or to my phone. That's the workaround to it. I don't like having an extra battery pack. That's the whole point of having power generation, but I just don't think those power generating hubs can produce enough electricity to power the new devices, because all the Garmins now are USB-C.
Well, that's the
phones are USB-C.
That's the difference between racing and just bikepacking, though. You know, like if you're racing, you don't want to carry a battery pack because every gram counts. Like if you're going on a bikepacking adventure, you want to be able to take your battery bank and charge your phone at night or whatever. Or you can just charge it during the day, you know.
Yep. So, Dan, the K-Lite works great. Just make sure you have a cache battery to bring along. It doesn't need to be a big one.
Doesn't have to be huge.
If anyone else has an answer to that as far as powering the newer devices, let us know, because it can get you in a.
Now I'm going to lean into the Jay Peterberry approach. Brad busts my balls every time I bring it up, but again, from my perspective, from doing the Rat and other stuff and other multi-day stuff, for whatever reasons, and user error could definitely be a major factor of it. The Dynamo hub setups have been one of the most problematic aspects of the bikes that have been to our events for multi-day stuff. And I mean, Peterberry's.
I wonder if they were shutter precision.
I can't speak to that. I know at least one time it was a Sun, but I can't speak to the generalities of it.
Knock on wood, I've never had a failure. I've never had it not work.
Why would you say something like that out loud?
Jay's this year he's been saying that he doesn't do a Dynamo hub anymore. He just relies on the cache batteries one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but like I have a little small ultralight rechargeable headlamp that weighs literally nothing. I can plug that in and charge that. I just
what is the drag on these? Is it noticeable?
Well, I mean, I beat these guys on rides all the time, so it can't be that bad.
I'm running the same hub. Dig it.
Oh, you are, aren't you? I mean,
but it's there. That's all.
I don't feel it, but I've had it on that bike since I've had that bike. So
you do when you first start riding it, and then it just goes away.
No, I get that.
It's like anything. It's like putting a slower tire on your bike.
And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, okay, so you're carrying an anchor anyway. Mm-hmm. So there's one.
Yep.
Hypothetically, the drag on the hub is probably wattage wise another battery's worth of drag. Realistically, is kind of what I'm saying.
Maybe it evens out anyway.
Yeah. Roughly speaking.
Yeah. Well, this is,
I'm not knocking the Dynamo hub. I'm just saying again, it's.
But how do you do a multi-day adventure?
That's the thing is I don't want to have to stop, or I don't want to have something to slow me down because I got to plug my shit in somewhere.
That makes sense too. I think the reality of it is probably 98.7% of the riders out there are rarely in a position where they do need to. Most people, somewhere over the course of 2 or 3 days, stop somewhere for a couple hours. They stop at a Dairy Queen to have a lunch, or they get a hut or a cabin or a motel room.
Yeah, but like when we did Triple Crown, we were out there for 4 days, and we had one resupply.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. That's like 1.5% of the cycling population.
Yeah.
That's doing.
And in Wood Ape Bramble, there was nothing available during that trip either.
Right.
I understand that.
So
you guys are abnormal.
Abby
normal.
This is probably the main selling point of why I'm riding my Cutthroat at XL.
Yeah.
Is to have that light and not have to worry about
powering.
I don't have to worry about the light.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna bring in a couple extra headlamps that are pretty lightweight, and then I've got my front generating.
Yeah. What are the requirements for XL now?
The only actual requirement is a satellite tracker. You have to have a tracker, and it will be on track leaders.
So when I did it, this was before people ran trackers. You had to have a tail light.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to have a helmet and blinky and all that stuff. But I don't think the only thing I saw that is an absolute must-have is
a satellite tracker.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're making the assumption that anyone that signs up for XL is going to have a helmet and a tail light and all that stuff.
It's one night, right?
It can go into the second night. I probably will not make it.
Depends on if you're asking Peter.
Well, that was going to be the punchline.
My hope is to make it back before sundown the next day. That would be a nice
through
goal.
One night.
Yeah, so you start at 3 p.m. on Friday.
Okay.
The afternoon before the 200.
I had my timing start off.
Matter of fact,
that's for the 350, not for the 200.
No, I understand.
When I was coming in the last probably 18, 15 miles from the 200 last year, I met up with a guy on a single speed who had started
the
XL, and he was rolling in. So there were XL people still coming in when I made it in.
What was your time again?
I'd have to go back and look. Was it 17, 18 hours?
Okay.
Something like that, with probably 2.5 of it walking.
Yeah. Because it was
total.
Because it was moody.
God damn. Watch that new, watch the Lifetime Grand Prix, the 2 episodes. There's 2 episodes on it, the men's and women's races.
Can you link me that whenever you're just sitting around doing nothing, eating bonbons?
Yeah, sure. Let me computer for you.
Just because I can't remember this shit.
You know, the only way to learn this shit is to get out and do it.
Get out and do it.
Okay.
No, the reason I was asking
let me Google that for you.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I was asking is when we did it, like I said, it was 2011 was the first year, 2012 was the second year, and it was like nobody was doing stuff like that, and so they sent out like this list of requirements. Like you will be checked at the start line to make sure you have a working headlamp and a working bar light, and you have to have a functional blinky, or you will be disqualified.
Well, okay, so around March, first week or 2 of March is when they start sending out some correspondence. That stuff might have been listed somewhere. Yeah. But when I got my email saying I got in, and then anything that's on the site now. I don't think it has a lot of rules other than the satellite tracker, because it has a placeholder for the track leaders link to set up your feed and all that stuff.
I was just curious because, like you said, I mean, I think it goes without saying that if you're going to sign up for a 350,
I'm sure they're going to have some things, but again, they're not trying to hold your hand either.
Right.
Yeah.
And they may say that's a rule, but I don't recall anybody checking my bike.
No, but it was a flex. But my whole goal was to finish before dark and not have to turn my lights on the year I did it. Both years. The first year, we bailed because it got muddy.
Question number 2 from Dan. Bags.
Mm-hmm.
Wet bags. Dry bags. What are the must-have things to pack? And is weight distribution important for ride stability and rough terrain? Yes, and yes.
I would say weight distribution is probably actually the most important component.
Quite
frankly.
Heavy stuff low, light stuff high. The most important thing I would say is I don't know what a wet bag is.
He means waterproof.
True waterproof bag.
Yeah. Brad and I both used to use the front roll, fruit roll, Tootsie Roll, whatever.
Sweet roll.
100% waterproof. It's connected to, the old version was connected to the harness. It was a little heavy, but it was very, very waterproof. But it
was impossible to pack.
Yeah, because you couldn't take it completely out. I think then they released a new one
now they have that
comes out,
the anything cradle, or the everything cradle or whatever.
Yeah,
that goes on the front. Yeah. That's what Red is running.
That's
so it's a hard mount.
That's Salsa.
Yeah.
But Brad and I now are using the pronghorn, which is considered. It is much lighter. Way. It's probably a third.
Yeah.
But it's not 100% waterproof. I think it's made to where
it's fucking waterproof.
Yeah, but
I've ridden in the rain with
it. It's a technical rating sort of thing. What it goes weather resistant, water resistant, waterproof.
Yeah. I would think it's water resistant.
Yeah.
Okay, put it this way. If you threw it in your swimming pool, it's going to fill up with water and sink, whereas the Sweet Roll will not.
Right. That's true.
But we've ridden in it in rain and fairly big downpours, and there's been a little bit of water that's gotten in. The pronghorn, definitely the ultralight bag. It's like it's not the Cuban or whatever that material is, but it's very similar, almost like a Tyvek feel.
Yeah.
It's not quite as resilient as the Sweet Roll.
Yeah.
That Sweet Roll's it's just like thick rubber kind of stuff. But I like the pronghorn.
To the point where it was hard to pack because the inside's rubberized. And your stuff wouldn't compress as well. And that paired with the fact that
it doesn't flex, it doesn't expand, and it's I'm not a fan of the waterproof bike packing stuff.
Yeah.
Big fan of dry bags, but dry bags you can rub a hole in them really easy.
Yes.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah. The other thing is that with the waterproof is a lot of times when you've ridden 9, 8, 12 hours in the day, those zippers are hard to get open sometimes. And you're just like, I'm so fucking tired. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It takes arm strength to pull those zippers open.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Speaking of riding 9, 10, 12 hours a day, the other thing I would tell you, Dan, is to figure out where you're going to put everything on your bike and stay consistent.
Yep.
So when you finish your ride for the day and you're dinged out, you can know exactly where your headlamp is because you need to set up camp, and then have all your camping stuff set up in the order that you're going to deploy it. And obviously have your rain jacket readily available, those kind of things. Just think about what your usage is like, and then just like, I know guys are different than girls because we wear jeans, and you always put your keys in one pocket and wallet in one pocket, phone in one pocket, cash or whatever in your other pocket, so you always know where it is. It's the same thing with your bike. Just keep all your stuff in the same place, and then you're set up for success. If you ingrain that habit from the beginning, it just makes the things a lot easier, I think.
I think you're referring to mise en place.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Everything in its place.
Yeah. It's a great song by Radiohead.
Never underestimate the value of a dry run, quite frankly.
Yes, you're going to want to do that, Dan.
We talked about that last night.
Pack your bike, go out for a short ride. Mm-hmm. Go to a park. Take your stuff out.
Just go around the block and set up in your backyard.
Let's go back to the weight distribution because so if you plan on running like a full frame bag, heavy stuff at the bottom.
Yeah.
Even if you can, I know that Fargo has mounting points underneath the bottom bracket. You can get a small dry keg to put your heavier tools and stuff.
Yeah.
I run my little titanium cup, my fuel canister, and my micro stove all fit inside the cup. That's at the very bottom of my frame bag. And then, but
do you put it in anything?
It's just like yours. It's got that little orange net bag that the cup goes in.
Yeah.
But everything fits in that cup perfectly.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have to have multiple things laying around. But
so it's a Toaks?
I don't know.
If it's an orange net bag,
yeah. Or it could be a knockoff. I don't know. But yeah, just try to get your heavier stuff. If you're running a seat bag, put your heavier stuff towards the seat post. When you're packing your bike, you're going to want your stuff that you're going to access more often on the outsides or tops if they're the lighter weight stuff like food or clothing or things like that.
Feels like there's a nor'easter blowing in.
Something just came in.
Yeah,
it got my panties cold.
All right, you can crank up that heater now.
Yeah, why are you not sharing that heat, cowboy?
Oh man, let me crank it up. Let me turn it to high. Any more on bags?
Yeah, I mean, just everybody's different. Everybody packs their stuff differently. But just for an example, like I put all my camping stuff on my handlebars, and I put all my spare clothing in my tail bag, and then I put all of my cooking, water filtration stuff in my half frame.
Yeah.
The
things that you aren't going to need in the ride, put those as far away as you can, and then the more useful stuff.
Like my rain jacket and stuff will still go in my half frame. Spare pair of gloves, phone, wallet, and water filtration are all in my half frame. And then tools and everything else I run in a separate bag. And I usually carry a little powder keg, excuse me, with
what that tastes like?
Tailwind. It tastes like everything. Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Good movie.
Great movie. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, that leads us to question number 3. And Dan classifies this himself as most importantly.
Yeah.
Water filtration. What filtration system is reliable or recommended? That is a very personal nuanced. And if you go with our group, there's 5 or 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
There may be 5 or 6 or 7 different options.
I can speak of my transitions through the years as far as water filtration and what I think and know, but there's other methods and thought processes as well. Some people carry like a life straw and try to survive off of that, and I don't think that's the right thing. And then the Sawyer method, where you fill a bag and squeeze it through. It's not the fastest. It's definitely the lightest mechanism, but when you're, 2-3 days in, squeezing that bag becomes a pain in the ass, and it's just, I don't know. I started out with a MSR hand pump, and that was even worse. It was like a diaphragm that you had to squeeze, almost like a blood pressure pump or something, and it was slow, and plus you don't want to be squeezing that. It's extra energy.
We've all talked about our luxuries that we like to have. I know you're big on, Kevin, you're big on your sleep system. I'm the same way. Like if I'm going to pack something that's a little heavier, if I want a luxury, like I have a little thicker sleeping pad because that's my luxury item.
Yeah.
Some people like the MSR foot pump. It's going to take up more room.
Right.
It's going to be a little heavier.
I run. It's not a foot pump. It's an MSR Guardian.
The Guardian.
But it's
but there is one with a foot pump. So what I'm saying is if that's what your luxury item wants to be and you want that ease, then pack that. I do. I have a retrofitted thing.
Yeah.
I have the Hydro Flask rubber liter or liter and a half bag. It's interesting because the hole is, instead of in the middle of the bag, it's at the bottom, so you can put it in your frame and it's always tilted forward. Anyway, I have it retrofitted with a Katahdin adapter with a Sawyer squeeze filter on the end. And the reason why I did that is the Sawyer bags just blow up.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
worthless.
They did that.
If you're going to carry one, carry two.
They did that on Wood Ape Ramble 1 on me. Day one, I broke both bags because I was just not being patient. It was my fault.
Yeah.
So I got this rubber bag.
Those K bags are pretty cool. Those are good.
Which ones?
The Katahdins?
Yes, the Katahdin.
I call them K-bags.
Now they do that now. When I built mine, I had already had that Hydro Flask, really thick rubber thing. You can't blow it up. So fill that up with creek water. Mm-hmm. And I have the Katahdin adapter that screws onto the Hydro Flask. And then the other end of the Katahdin adapter, that's where my Sawyer squeeze is, the larger flow. Don't get the micro flow. That takes you forever. Yeah. And I can fill a bottle in, I don't know, 90 seconds maybe? Something like that. It's not awful.
Terribly long.
Yeah.
You don't have to squeeze super hard to get water through the Sawyer, and you don't want to force it through. You'll blow out the filter anyway.
Now, remind me, Brad, the Guardian, it's got the charcoal or it does not have the charcoal?
Yeah, it's good for I think 10,000 liters of water. It's super expensive entry point. I don't know what they're getting for them now. I was lucky. My mother asked me what I wanted for Christmas one year, and I was like, I want this. And she's like, okay. And she bought it for me. And that was the only thing I got for Christmas. Yeah. And unfortunately, it sat on the shelf in my garage for 4 years before I ever decided to put it into action. But what was the catalyst for that was when we went on, I think it was Wood Ape Ramble 1, I was always the last person filtering water. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. So what I did is I just changed out some of my componentry and my carry because I was carrying, AeroPress to make coffee. And our buddy Hoyt turned me on to the beauties of Cowboy coffee. And so I switched to Cowboy coffee, eliminated the AeroPress, and eliminated my little MSR hand pump. It's like the one I
almost a wash at that point.
Yeah. And so volumetrically speaking, it was the same, but now I was 4 times faster at filtering water. Yeah. And I've done, I've taken that thing on the Devil's River too and just filtered straight out of the river. The cool thing is it screws right onto your bottle. So it'll screw onto an Nalgene, it'll screw onto a smart Hydro Flask, and it'll screw onto a standard water bottle, like a Camelback or Specialized or whatever. And so you can filter straight into your bottle. The only bad thing about that is you can't see,
Yeah.
So I misspoke. It's a Hydra Pack.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a Hydro Flask.
That's the one that I use. It's called Hydra Pack. Okay. And I think I read, this might have been last year, I think someone actually has made that adapter now. Where you don't have to, because it's a little expensive. I had to pay $40 for the Katahdin filter that you basically have to break it. You literally have to break it to where it can never be used again in order to get that adapter off onto your bag.
So this kind of take us a little bit towards the beginnings of ShiftLess. Brad and I talked about water filtration in one of our early episodes, and the plan was, and it's still an outstanding invitation to anybody that can step in on this. Back when the idea was we were going to bring on experts every week and talk about shit we don't know, this was actually one of the things that brought it to my attention. There's not a lot of experts on stuff. There's a lot of marketing speak.
Yeah. I'd like to talk to a microbiologist and talk to someone about actual micron filtration and how small does it have to go and what what I'm carrying, is that sufficient to kill or to eliminate?
Yeah, that's kind of the level it has to go to. You're not going to be able to talk to a water filter provider and get straight answers on any of this stuff. But the generalities of it, and this I kind of went into it already in this frame of mind. I am definitely one of those. When there's clean water available, I optimize that and carry as much as is viable. I try to save filtration till it's only completely necessary, and that's also very Texas centric as well.
I mean, I've drank straight out of creeks in Arkansas and not had a problem on the Womble.
Well,
but I also grew up in kitchens eating nasty food too, so
and
my gut biome.
But all it takes is one cell.
Oh yeah, ask me how I know.
Yeah,
There's a climb on Wood A Ramble named after my evacuated stomach content.
Is that cheese? You can eat all that?
So good. Okay, let me
creek beers. Beers. What's your opinion on creek beers?
late breaking news.
Uh-huh.
So I mentioned I had the HydroPack bladder.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a Katahdin screw-on filter because it was the 42 millimeter threaded, which fits the HydroPack. I had to break it apart to get to the threaded ends that then connected to a Sawyer squeeze. Sawyer squeeze is like $40. That Katahdin thing I bought was like 40 or 50 bucks.
Is there going to be a powder point on this?
The powder point is that HydroPack now makes a 42 millimeter filter cap for $35. It screws onto the HydroPack. It does the exact same thing that I'm doing, which I'm going to buy. But I am seeing that the filtering on the Sawyer looks like it's a little bit better. It has 0.1 micron, whereas the HydroPack is 0.2. Yeah. So I think that the Sawyer is going to filter a little better, but
So my takeaway after almost a year's worth of research on it is the Sawyer is probably the best way to go unless you need the charcoal filtration, the reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
And then and in Texas, basically, you're going to need the reverse osmosis because the micron filters are not going to do anything with chemicals or pesticides or anything like that.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about that Guardian that I have is if you are with a group, this is another thing that you can contemplate. Like I've been on trips before where we kind of spread everything out. Like, out of 6 people, 2 people will carry water filtration and like 3 people will carry stoves, that way everybody doesn't have to carry everything. Now, if you're going to nerd out like I do, I want to carry all my stuff and be self-sufficient because in the inevitability that someone has to get, they want to leave the course or they suffer an injury or whatever the case is, they get omitted from the group, then you're burdened with carrying their stuff and you might not, A, want to carry it, or B, even be capable of strapping it to your bike somewhere. Back to Dan's question, voila straps. Put 2 in your bag, whether you think you need them or not.
Yep.
And then 2 more in another bag.
Yep.
And then zip ties. But I think the beauty of having like the Guardian, like when we go to the LBJ grasslands and we're filtering out of cistern, that thing, everybody can filter from that thing, and it's stupid fast.
That's my exception in Texas.
Yeah,
I will filter a cattle cistern, no problem at all.
Yeah,
yep. And then he had texted. That's the end of his email questions, but he did text me the other day asking me what I was going to take as far as sleep system, bivy, hammock, or tent, and I said all 3 could be used. It just depends on what your
comfort level
is, what you're doing.
We're not going light and fast enough to constitute a bivy.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, bivy, if you want to go fast, you want to go light, or you just want to try it out. Like I did it on one of our trips just to see how it worked. I slept in it fine, but you have to change. I mean, you don't have a lot of room
just to minimize setup and tear down.
Yeah.
There's a bivy benefit.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going.
It's also
this trip,
weather dependent too.
Yeah, man. If those things don't breathe, then you will absolutely.
Yeah,
it's like a swamp in there.
I mean, if it's
you wake up smelling
it's 80 degrees, your hammock is going to be the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I told him a lot of trees out there that probably, I don't know if all of us, but a large group will be doing hammocks if they've got it. I'm not bringing a tent. I'm going to do the hammock just because the weather's going to be great to hammock sleep in.
I told both of my hammock stories last night.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you tell Adam's hammock story?
I told Adam. Well, I called it my story, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Raining in hammocks are fun.
Yeah.
So that's Dan's questions.
So basically, with water filtration, inconclusive.
Your mileage may vary. I mean, it's kind of a personal journey,
Looking at Sawyer's website right now, looking at HydroPack's website right now, looking at Katahdin's, it's been probably 3 years since I've even looked at, addressed, or seen what's new. There's a lot of new stuff out that seems to be made improvements, so I'm probably going to revisit it and see.
Yeah, my generic recommendation to everyone is just start with a Sawyer squeeze and find out what you don't like about it.
And buy an extra bag.
Yep.
Well, do the bag setup like Caleb's talking about with a Sawyer squeeze.
Yeah, that's what entry level on that, like cost coming in is like what over right north of 100 for the whole system. No, that takes
it to, or no, you said the adapter was 35.
The adapter's 35, but they are selling a kit now.
I'm about to say it's
$100.
Yeah,
$100 for the kit. It's the 2-liter rubber bag.
Okay.
It's the squeeze adapter that goes onto it.
Right.
But is not quite of a. The filtration of it is not as good as Sawyer, but very close.
You think we can put a link to this on this?
Yeah, and then it also comes with a 3-liter
hanging bag
bladder that you can put in your backpack that has the hose and all that. That's a really good deal, actually.
It is
for all 3 of those things. Plus, it comes with 2 extra tips.
Okay, but that's with that's with their filter.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
What site are you looking at?
Hydropack.
Hydropack.
Okay. Well, we will definitely put a link in the show notes. We'll also put a link to the MSR Guardian, and we will put a link to the Sawyer squeeze as well.
Yep.
Highly encourage folks to do their own research along those lines and send us more questions. We'll dig deeper if we need to.
Yeah.
Thanks for the questions, Dan.
Or if you know more than we do, which isn't saying much.
Yeah,
reach out.
That doesn't take a lot, but if you really know your shit and know what you're talking about in this.
Oh, the backpacking bundle?
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought, is that all Dan had? I thought he had more.
No, this email only had 3 questions, and then the sleep system.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be carrying a hammock, and it really depends on what the weather is. That's the other reason I love my hammock is it's so modular. I've slept, not that I would want to carry this setup on my bike, but I've slept in single degrees, and I've slept 90 degrees, Yep. It just depends on how you layer and what you wear and what components you carry.
And what brand do you like? What do you?
Well, currently I have a Hennessy Traveler XL, but they don't make that animal anymore. I'm about to buy a Dutchware Chameleon.
That's what I have.
I think that's the best setup off the rack you can possibly get. And it's very modular too. It has a zip-on top cover, so they have one that's strictly mosquito netting for warmer temperatures, and they have one that's full material with just ventilation at the head area, and it's freaking amazing. I have one of those as well on long-term loan. And then,
do you know if you have the regular Chameleon or the wide? I went with the wide because the wide is actually longer.
That's a good question.
The regular was right at 72 inches, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to fit in it very well. So to get the extra length, I had to go with the wide, which is luxurious. Buddy, you and I could spoon in that thing.
Yeah.
It does take up a
lot. We can spoon in anything.
Well, that's true. Kevin, you ever seen 2 men in a one-man tent? It does take up more space, but then again, so does my sleeping pad because I use an extra long sleeping pad.
So you're still running a sleeping pad in a hammock?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying whether I went with my hammock or whether I went with a tent, I'm still going to have one thing in there that's going to be oversized.
Yeah.
Whether it's my extra long sleeping pad.
That's what she said.
And the condoms.
There we go.
Yep. So in my hammock evolution, I do have to share this one story because it's so good. I don't even know if you've heard this story, Caleb.
Probably several times, but go ahead.
When everything was flooded, this had to be 8-10 years ago. Everything was flooded. We went out from here, or maybe Thornton's house, to circumnavigate Ray Roberts, Lake Ray Roberts. And we were on, I don't even know what bike I was on. I think the Willits. And I had a sleep system that was kind of just patched together. I was still running an Eno. I was running the double back then because it was wider.
Yep.
And I like to wrap it around me. It was, in the middle of the summer, it was hot AF. And I had borrowed this mosquito netting system. I don't even know who made it, but it was a complete envelope to your hammock, and it had a vertical zipper. So you'd get in your hammock from the side, pull your feet in, and you would reach down and zip it up, right? So we were up about 5 miles out of Tioga, and we may or may not have been bandit camping. And where we set up, it was very marshy, nasty underneath us, but we were all in hammocks. So we didn't care what the ground was like. That's the beauty of the hammock, is you don't have to find flat ground. You don't have to worry about, is my head uphill, all that stuff. So we set up camp. We left all our stuff. We rode into town and went to Clark's, ate all the food, drank all the beer, got back to camp, had a little fire, and it just started getting cold. And so one by one, we all just went to bed. And I get in my hammock. I am, at this point, like the senior hammock guy. I've been camping in hammocks off my bike for, 4 or 5 years. And I start rustling around. I'm trying to get comfortable, and I fall out of my fucking hammock in the mosquito net, in the mud. So I'm trapped in this net, in the mud, soaking wet. Now I'm cold. So I have to, in the dark, mind you. So I'm trying to find this zipper to get out of this thing. And I finally get out. And then I have to find luckily I had dry, clean underwear and stuff to put on. And so I'm in the dark, just cussing and bitching and changing my clothes, and then have to get back in the hammock
in the middle of the night
so I can warm up. And nobody was asleep yet. And they were all just giggling and fucking with me, like, "Hey, bud, you okay?
You
okay? Want me to call Laura?" It was it was one of my most embarrassing moments.
But it was a great story.
It was, yeah. It was a mess.
What's next?
You said you had some throwback stuff that you wanted to put in the
notes.
I have something too before I forget.
Go ahead.
April 8th, Kevin.
Oh.
I'm growing more and more excited about this.
Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for the segue, because I wanted to throw this into the mix in this episode.
Perfect.
A reminder.
I ordered some glasses.
Perfect. This is super. This is all right, folks. Seriously, we're April 8th. It's a Monday. Mm-hmm. It's our total eclipse day. We spoke about it in a previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a camp out spot reserved. Navarro Mills Lake.
How far is that from here?
Hour-ish, maybe an hour and a half.
Mileage. Is there a route?
Actually, yeah, there is. Our Dallas to Austin route goes right through there. So
okay,
yeah,
I'd like to ride from here, camp out there Sunday night.
We can make that happen.
Yeah,
that's a piece of cake, actually.
Okay, and catch a ride back with you.
I won't be coming back till Tuesday morning.
Okay,
but okay, we'll talk about that. So here's the part people need to understand. Total eclipse is a huge deal. If you've never seen one, you want to experience this. Yes, just living in Dallas, Fort Worth, if the skies are clear, you'll be able to catch totality locally. You don't have to travel to do it. If you're not in the area of totality, you want to make a trip to do it. And even if you are in the area of totality, if you can maximize that time, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing to be aware of. This is going to be nuts. Put the Super Bowl, put the NCAA championship, put Taylor Swift, put everything you can imagine together, all going on in Texas at the same time. Texas is going to be bonkers for that Monday.
For 4 minutes. 4 whole minutes.
Story of my life.
Sounds like my wedding night.
Wow. Man, y'all last a long time.
It was a collaborative effort. It was. Okay. I went twice.
But
finished first both times.
But the nuts and the bolts of it are, you don't want to be leaving the house at 11 o'clock trying to go down to I-35 for this 140 show.
Yeah.
You want to be somewhere Sunday night where you can kick back and do your thing. So what we've got set up is camping Sunday and Monday night at Navarro Mills Lake, and that's pretty close to totality there. I think we're going to get like 4 hours and 15 seconds of it.
No, 4 hours.
I mean, 4 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And talking about my wedding night now, but
holy shit!
Man.
I thought if it lasted longer than 4 hours, you were supposed to see a doctor.
They do tell you.
Wow.
But
impressive.
But we also have a route laid out that will take you right to the center line on gravel roads, and there's a high likelihood of spinistry chow, barbecue at the group camping and all that.
I bet I could do something too.
Okay, that's plan A. If with clear skies there. If it's not going to be clear skies there, I'm going to go to where there are clear skies, but the camping will still be available if people want to use it.
Okay. And while we're on the totality and full eclipse and all that stuff, if I can recommend one video that will help you get even more excited about this and nerd out and understand what's going to take place more, there's a channel on YouTube called Smarter Every Day, and he does an amazing job of explaining this. And it's almost a little too nerdy at some points, but it's still super intriguing. He has a guy on as a guest that is one of the most renowned experts in eclipses and just nerds out on a whole nother level. But it is super intriguing, and I've gotten way more excited about it just from watching that video. So
very cool.
That's why I wanted to bring it up.
No, thank you. I wanted to include that in this episode as well. This will probably be the last time we really talk about it, to remind you.
Yeah.
Not to do our club spinistry ride. Make a point to experience the eclipse however you can.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Step out of your cubicle.
Definitely. Take the day off.
And order your glasses now, because you do have to have CE, NASA certified glasses all the way up until the point of totality, and then you can take them off, and then once it starts on the reveal, you have to put your glasses back on.
Make no mistake, you have to be in the true totality zone to experience. 99.9% is not 100%. You have to be in 100% totality to experience it's been likened to 99.9% is driving to Disney World and stopping in the parking lot. 100% is being in Disney World and experiencing the full boat.
Talking about my wedding night again?
Whatever floats your boat.
Where's gravel going to be 5 years from now, Caleb?
Interesting that you asked that, Brad. I just so happen to have the answer to that.
Retrospectively.
Right and wrong answers. So I've mentioned a few times, Kay and I have been going through clutter and throwing shit out and donating stuff that we don't need anymore. And I found a massive stack of VeloNews, and I came across April 2019. It's got this badass guy in Grindero just railing it through the...
That's a sick pic.
That is pretty cool, man. That guy is, he's putting it down.
And he looks like he has flare bards, too.
He does. Yeah, he's on a Santa Cruz. Anyway, the cover story is Get Dirty in 2019. How to race... Do I say DK? Now, can I say it?
Yeah.
How to race Dirty Kanza, Leadville, Grindero, and more. 2019. Kevin, what was the state of gravel then? What was going on? What was the excitement? What was the predictions?
2019 was like right in the heart of the transition from spirit of gravel to modern day gravel.
Yep.
I
think it's a good way. I mean, don't get me wrong.
It was doorstep. It was doorstep of modern day gravel, kind of.
No, it was in the foyer.
Okay,
would be
all right.
They had crossed the threshold. In 2019 was probably threshold year. Would be the best way to describe it. That's when everything exploded. Was 2019.
Okay. I mean, obviously, if on VeloNews they're highlighting DK and Grindero.
17, 18 was leading up to it, sort of thing. 19 is when we got into, 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 19 is when full-blown general cultural awareness of gravel cycling and gravel racing in across the board in the cycling community. I would say, for lack of a better term, that's when it went full fad. But, I mean, it was very well established up until then.
Yep. 2017 was the year.
What are you looking at?
It's a big hawk that just came and landed in that tree over there.
That was a buzzard.
Fuck off. There's a hawk right there.
So, interesting enough, in this article or in this issue, I was flipping through it because back then, I think VeloNews, I'd only seen one or two cover stories on gravel. It was this one and kind of one about Colin Strickland.
That's definitely when popular culture.
I threw all the old VeloNews away except for the few gravel issues. So interesting. So anyway, I get to this page and the title of the article is "What Will Gravel Racing Look Like in 5 Years?" Single page, three
different takes,
3 columns, each by a different writer. And
who are the writers?
The writers are Chris Case, who was at this. I don't know if these guys are still a part of the magazine, but Chris Case, he's the managing editor. Spencer Pallison, which is the news director, and Fred Dreyer, editor in chief.
Fred Dreyer, yeah.
Okay.
That's the only name I recognize.
Yeah. And I'm going to read these and talk about this. I'm certainly not talking shit about these guys or what they got wrong or what right. We're going back over because we're exactly 5 years. This was
where is gravel going to be in 5 years? And this was written 5 years ago.
April 2019. So we'll start with Chris Case. This is the interesting one. Starts off, gravel racing's current upward trajectory is astronomical. That surge of energy is creating a lot of buzz, plenty of hand-wringing among purists and grassroots types.
I remember
and a level of industry excitement that is driving a bit of innovation and a whole lot of marketing hype. But it won't last.
Ooh.
Pros will eventually realize they can't just dip their toes in and magically run up their win tally or fundamentally change the sport. The prize money won't continue to rise because, well, it's cycling, and there will only be so many races that become big enough, appealing enough, and lucrative enough to attract corporate interest.
Well, that didn't age well.
Wow.
He couldn't have been any more wrong if he tried.
There's a lot of right to that still, but we'll talk about that.
Yep. So just about done with this one.
Yeah.
Continuing, the point is the pendulum that is gravel racing currently is on a wild ride to one extreme. It will eventually swing back to a natural resting place. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
At that point, the gravel niche will become an attractive amalgam. Sorry, it was hyphenated. Amalgam. It was hyphenated, so broken on 2 lines. Amalgam of road, mountain, and gravel cycling's best qualities. Compelling courses, inviting atmospheres, unique characters, and communal spirit that brings everything together. In other words, it will be healthy rather than hyper. One can only hope.
I think Rule of 3 started in 2019, didn't it? Which sounds like almost exactly what he's...
We actually... 2021 is when Rule of 3 started.
I think 2019 is when they put the idea together, if I remember from what I was looking at.
Where he did come across as maybe off base, I'm going to say he was actually pretty close to on base as far as the money's not going to be there and so forth. Like, there's not that many sponsors.
Yeah, but the purses are huge now, comparatively.
One sponsor. Generally speaking, it's all lifetime. So one big sponsor shifted that paradigm at the competitive level. Now, are there other events out there with payouts and so forth? Yes, there are, but it's not a replacement of the Tour de California and the Coors races and all. It's not at that. It's lifetime specifically and their series money.
Yeah,
but that's not.
But there's more pros in gravel now than there ever have been.
No, I agree. Yeah. But it's if Lifetime pulls out, and I'm not saying they are. I'm not implying they are.
Yeah.
If Lifetime pulls out, then there
will be no baby.
That pro base dissipates quickly.
Oh yeah, sure. Make no mistake, they're there for the money, not the camaraderie. The camaraderie is just a luxury.
So, in where he was off base, I will grant him that, but he's not as off base as people may think, oh, look how wrong he was. No, he was wrong by one major player, generally speaking.
Well, I mean, he did say it's driving a bit of innovation and a whole lot of marketing hype. Mm-hmm. And I would say it's driven a shitload of innovation. It's driven
a shitload. That's stuff.
Well, he was speaking to current, but
and in 19, man, that was a. I think in 19 we were already beyond a bit of innovation. At that point, 19 we were full throttle into the innovation of what gravel bikes were and how they differentiated themselves from mountain bikes and cyclocross bikes at that point. 19, I mean, were they perfected yet? No. I think we're pretty close to.
Did they have a 36er?
No. In a dropper post? I mean, in 2019, gravel bikes were still listed under road bikes on bike brands websites. Yeah. They had not even separated them into its own category.
Well,
not that's innovation, but that did it. If something is selling enough, they're gonna categorize it on its own.
2019 was the year that popular road cycling switched over to popular gravel cycling. It really is, from the competitive standpoint or from the higher level amateur participation standpoint. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that was our biggest.
Yeah, I don't think he just got it completely wrong. I just found it funny that he said the prize, and you're right. Lifetime is putting up a lot of money, but $300,000 is a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, that's the total purse. First place is getting $30,000. I mean,
it's definitely enough to attract
it is
high level cyclists.
Which his line here that says
pros won't be able to dip their toe.
They can't just dip their toe and magically run up their win tally or fundamentally change the sport. And I think the pros have fundamentally changed the sport.
And I would argue not necessarily for the better.
I mean, I don't know.
I think it's broken into two sports now.
Yeah.
At least two. But there is spirit of gravel, and there's current gravel.
Yeah.
Current racing gravel.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yeah.
I think those are two distinct disciplines at the moment. So it can't all be lumped into gravel. I think there's I think they're two different things. Now, I think what he was touching on there though was the 2019 pro participation, and I'm oversimplifying it. I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings here, but that was when the old and washed up pros were starting to transition to gravel to keep relevant. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So that part he's right about. That only lasted a year or two before the new school young whippersnappers that are out there kicking ass in gravel.
Yeah.
You can't be a 50-year-old retired pro that's going to go out there and win DK now.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No.
Right.
You have to be in your prime as a cyclist, regardless of discipline, to win. I call it DK and Unbound.
Yeah.
The series.
Shame on you.
I know. I'm a bad person. So he was actually, I agree with him. He was actually very prescient. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
No, I like your take on that because I read this and it's like, oh, he got that wrong. But yeah, hearing it from
that was my immediate thought too. As he's reading it real time, I was like, that didn't.
Yeah,
I even said it. That didn't age well.
You got to put it on you got to put on your 2019 glasses for what he was talking about there, and what ended up coming of it, where he was off base a little bit, was there was a new type of pro that came on board.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that it's the wild card in all of this was that 2020 COVID year. Everything just turned upside down in the gravel
That's true.
events world right then and there.
Yeah, think about how just naive we were to everything that was about to happen in April 2019.
That's true.
Because, as we were talking about this, I didn't even think about the huge bubble that fucked everything up.
Oh, I mean...
That is COVID.
Do you know, now that I think about it, I was already working from home. Because my company is global. Mm-hmm. We had offices in India and Italy and... What I don't remember what the other country got real hot really, really quick with COVID.
Brazil.
It might have been. I don't remember. But they shut us. We knew it was going on, but we went home like first week of March.
Right.
We came into the office and they go, hey, everybody go home.
In 2020. Not 2019.
Not 19.
It wasn't 19?
No, it was
20.
2020.
That was
Okay.
20.
I just remember. I know you're ahead of the times, but you ain't that ahead of the times.
Well, I just remember, like, we weren't even aware in the office that we knew that there was something going on, but we didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
And then I remember calling my wife on the way home, I was like, "Hey, they just sent us home. Apparently, this thing is going to be bad."
Yeah, that brings up that brings up a huge point. So 19, from my perspective, from a promoter's perspective, from an existing putting on gravel events perspective, that was the transition year. That is when all of these traditional events that had been doing their own thing started getting bought out by Lifetime.
Yeah, and it was just a ratchet. I mean, we were just a steady climb.
I mean, that was from the gravel events perspective. That was the business model.
Yeah.
Everybody was out there trying to put on gravel events, hoping to be bought by Lifetime.
Yeah,
is what they were trying to do.
And the trajectory was only perceived to be going up.
Yes,
I mean there was not a downfall in the near future.
Everybody was convinced that, you know, going back to the old way of doing, you had to have an established event for there to be a commercial interest in buying. You know, nobody could just go out there and start one from scratch. Hell, you know. Big Sugar proved that wrong. SBT proved that wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
If you throw $250,000 of marketing at something, you can make it happen.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yep.
But ananyway, what
Okay.
else is in? What else is?
Okay.
This is actually pretty fascinating.
So the other two I read through, and they had some interesting predictions that, for the most part, came out right. So this is Spencer Pallison. In terms of amateur participation, gravel is just getting started, but will it ever sustain true pro racing circuit with riders getting paid large salaries to race? I don't think so. I mean,
So far,
we just talked about it.
So far, that's true.
Yep.
Because they're not getting paid salaries to do it.
Yep.
No, right.
They're privateers.
Right. They're getting salaries. Well, some are getting salaries from their
Some have
endorsements.
Some have
sponsorships.
sponsor deals, but that's
Yeah.
still.
But there's not very many people. Well, you think about, was it early last year, Specialized cut?
Yeah.
All of their
Salsa cut, Santa Cruz cut.
Yeah.
They all did.
Yeah.
Dropped their ambassador program.
That's what it was.
And,
yeah. Experienced cyclists are discovering the joys of riding quiet dirt roads, and they are looking for events to challenge them like Century Rides used to. Also, cyclists are finding gravel to be an inviting, inclusive way to join the sport, and the events inspire them. I think that's spot on.
That's pretty spot on, yeah.
None of this translates into supporting for a deep, viable scene for pro racing, however. For pro races, you need prize money, major media exposure, and perhaps television. And while I think the participant-driven events will thrive, none of them will want to invest in the infrastructure needed to create a sustainable professional division. Why should they?
No, I think Lifetime's kind of turned that on its head.
I mean, the reality is now how are you defining pro cycling? Because sure, if you want to go UCI World Tour de France level, no, it's not. But we didn't have that in the United States anyway.
Right.
There was no pro cycling scene of any stature in the.
Yeah, there's no major stage races besides like Tour de California, and that's like almost a training ride for a lot of the top tier pros.
Is it even around still? Mm-hmm. Is it?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Which one am I thinking of?
I don't know that any of the classic U.S. tours are still around, but I could be wrong.
Let me look.
Sure. But okay. Irregardless,
Tour of California was an annual professional road cycling.
Really? It's not around anymore.
that's why there is no pro cycling in the United States outside of gravel for all intents and purposes.
Wait, hold up. Here's Tour de California 2024 routes.
That's the tour for people to go out and ride. That's not the professional road race. I don't think.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad.
No.
Yeah, AEG announced a hiatus for the Amgen Tour of California in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's no.
And it was all yes,
COVID related.
COVID shut it down, but it was already on life support.
Yeah, they were losing money. They were having a very difficult time televising it.
Yeah.
So when you watch the Lifetime videos, there's helicopter footage. There's people in the helicopter.
Drone footage.
No, they're in the helicopter.
Are they?
Absolutely, they're in it. You can. There's
okay, my
footage
bad.
of them,
Is Leadville
and they're talking. But I've
Yes.
not. Yeah, but I've not actually seen. I need to go and look they make it seem like they're broadcasting it and you're listening to someone live, but I don't know if they're doing that for the series. Because what I'm getting is I don't even think they're streaming it yet. Like there are some people who are on motorbikes that are streaming it from their phones.
So they had a supposed provider for that last year that evidently the technology didn't work, but maybe it worked well enough for them to put it together on a post-production basis.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. I would watch it. I think it. I don't know, but I like watching this shit.
Same.
Okay, last paragraph from Spencer. Bike companies look to gravel for adventure and lifestyle, not necessarily racing performance. What does that mean? Bike companies look to gravel for adventure and lifestyle, not necessarily racing performance. And most importantly, the majority of today's prominent gravel race promoters don't prioritize the pro riders over the amateurs. Instead, they flip this equation. And isn't it about time that cycling prioritized what truly matters?
I agree with the heart of that statement, but I think what he's saying in the very beginning of that statement is that bike companies as a whole, they're promoting the adventure side. Like think Salsa running Fargos and Cutthroats and all that stuff wasn't really geared exclusively to top-level pros. It's not the fastest go get the thing done. It's have fun on your bike. Yeah. Here's the tool to do it with.
But Salsa as a brand had always been that.
True.
But Canyon,
their motto is adventure
Trek,
by bike.
Yeah.
Canyon, Trek, and Giant, they want you to get on their bikes and light their fuse.
The traditional cycling marketing model has always been, here's what the proiest of pros ride. It's what you should ride too on your weekly club ride.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's getting at there. At that point in 2019, the gravel bike was not your 15,000. That wasn't your $15,000 S-Works bike at the time.
There weren't drool-worthy gravel bikes.
Right. Right. So they weren't recognizing yet how it was going to drive the market. They were saying, hey, yeah, these bikes make sense for the average everyday rider, but that's not what drives Specialized and Trek or whoever else to innovate. And that's not what makes the bike shop money. The bike shop makes the money off the $5,000 or $6,000, $15,000 bikes a year they sell, not all the $300 profit bikes they sell each month, sort of thing. And that model is being turned around right now, but there's lots of reasons for it. And it wasn't working in 2019. The cycling industry was in a huge decline in the midst of 2019. As well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that COVID did do was breathe the new air into the cycling industry.
There is a fantastic podcast series out there from the Escape Collective. It's a 4-part series about what happened, how the cycling industry got to where it is right now post-COVID.
What's it called?
The Escape Collective is the group. Basically, it's a membership site. It's people like these guys on VeloNews. Okay. They've all gone because the whole industry's been turned upside down. The traditional,
it's like a Substack kind of thing for cycling.
Very much. Okay. It's called the Escape Collective, and so a bunch of the journalists, the cycling journalists, and broadcasters and so forth that have been shut out of their old tradition.
How did the bike industry get into such deep trouble?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. It's a 4-part series. It's really good stuff.
I'm in.
So definitely check that one out. But it touches on a bunch of those things that we were just talking about. But and that was the second guy.
Yeah. So, but let's the last section too. I want to talk about, and most importantly, the majority of today's prominent gravel race promoters don't prioritize the pro riders over the amateurs. Instead, they flip this equation. And isn't it about time cycling prioritized what truly matters? But why? What is he saying? He's saying that you need to treat pros better or differently?
I think he's saying the opposite. I think he's saying that's a good thing that the cycling events of 2019 were catering to the everyday rider.
Yeah,
the reality is that has flipped now, though. The majority of these big events are, yes, they're still wanting the thousands of everyday riders to show up to pay the bills. There's no doubt about that. But they're building the event, they're building the marketing, they're catering to those high-level racers and riders to get them there. which I think they think that's the right marketing approach, and I'm not disagreeing with it, but that only works to a certain point. You know, when you're the one or two events nationwide that are paying pros to show up, that's fantastic. But at some point, well, to get those pros to show up to your race, well, I had to pay $20,000 last year to have all these pros show up for my race. Well, this year I got to pay $80,000. At some point, you're paying $200,000 to have the pros show up, and you have to raise the entry fees to $300 for the regular, for Caleb and Brad to show up for that ride. At some point, people don't pay that price. And particularly now that the pros don't necessarily want to start with the everyday riders. They want their own race that's not mixed up with everybody else.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, hey, I went and I towed the line with whoever.
Yeah, speaking of which, how much did you pay Lance to show up at your event?
He paid me.
Oh, yeah?
That's true.
That's freaking awesome.
He paid his regular entry fee.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
By the way, are you guys seeing the flurries fly around?
Oh, my God, it's snowing.
It is.
It's
not.
It's a whiteout.
It is a whiteout.
It's a nor'easter.
Oh, my God, people are going to start driving like morons. Okay, last one, Fred Dreyer.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get really articulate so I sound smart.
Okay.
Gravel racing's rise comes as American professional and participatory road racing is tanking. True.
Ooh, yep.
It's no secret that gravel overcomes a few of the major hurdles standing in the way of road. Staging an event on dirt back roads is cheap. Staging a race on asphalt roads is expensive.
Yep.
Professional road cycling teams require huge budgets. Brands can sponsor individual racers for much less. With road cycling's current economic hurdles unlikely to abate, I believe gravel will become America's dominant form of competitive cycling 5 years from now.
I'm liking this guy.
Ooh, he's got a magic ball. Balls.
Deep.
Participants will swarm to mass start events similar to what you see at major running marathon or triathlons. Elite athletes will mix with the masses, and everyone will head out into the race course together to test themselves against the other racers and their own bodies. This guy's getting really poetic. Don't talk about my body. Sponsors will back these elite athletes as a chance to influence the masses. Perhaps some sponsorships will fund small teams, 2 or 3 riders, and perhaps racers will simply compete as individuals. He nailed that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, EF is doing that already.
Yeah.
Has been doing that. Everyone will crack a beer at the finish line and marvel at the fun that they had.
Who is this again?
This was Fred Dreyer, editor-in-chief at the time. I don't know if he's still there.
And how does Fred spell Dreyer?
Dreyer. E-I-E-I-O.
Fred, very prescient.
Yeah. He was more spot on than the other two guys.
I think he did, yeah.
And my curiosity, as you were reading that, I couldn't help but think, did all 3 of those guys write that in a vacuum where there was no previous discussion, they just sent it to the editor, and the editor combined all 3 and published them? Or did they sit around and discuss it? You know what I mean?
To me,
it seems like they wrote it on their own.
It felt like they wrote it in a vacuum, which I hope that it doesn't feel like they influenced either one of each other.
I think they probably, the editor probably tried, if there was overlap, they minimized the overlap.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah.
To reinforce the distinct voices there, but I think definitely Fred was
freaking spot on.
Pretty spot on. He's still with Outside, it seems like, just from a quick glance.
Okay.
Might be worth a shot just to see if he'll talk to us. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, send him an email. I would definitely bring that into the discussion. We were discussing how well your take on gravel evolution over the next 5 years aged.
What's the next 5 years look like so I can plan accordingly, because I have no idea.
Well, since this is an audio publication, not a print publication, and we are recording, Kevin, give us 5 years. What's your prediction in 5 years?
Shit.
Yeah.
I want to hear yours because it's going to be different than Brad and I's because you're on a completely different side of the spectrum.
Okay, so 5 years from now, there will be a distinct difference between the highest level gravel racing and the mass start. I mean, it's already getting there, but I mean, I can even see different days where the race is on Sunday, the ride is on Saturdays. I think another thing that was kind of touched on there, I think the higher level events will look very similar to triathlons and Ironman sort of things. They're going to want their $300 and $400 entry fees, and they're going to have to justify those. And there's going to be a very distinct audience.
Well, that shit's happening right now because they're already at that point on most of them.
I get that. And whatever the premium is, maybe it's $700 events. I don't know what that price point is, but there's going to be this next level that's even beyond what we're looking at now for what you get for a $300 entry fee. It will be the ones that aren't bucket list per se. Again, along the lines of doing a true Ironman or something like that. It's, this is the Kona Ironman of gravel sort.
Right.
Somebody's going to try to do that, but
Leadville's already that event in its allure, isn't it?
Kind of yes, kind of no.
It just has this air about it where it's like everybody wants to do Leadville.
Well, but man, Leadville's had that air for a while, so that's what's really.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what.
Sorry, continue with your prediction. I'm sorry.
That's what Lifetime capitalized on and tries to replicate in their other events, and they're getting there. But there's still only one Leadville.
Yeah.
And
you're saying that there's going to be a business model almost, and there's going to be cookie cutter events across the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, so some of those events will be more prestigious than others in that series, in that sanctioning body or whatever it is,
like SBT gravel and. Stuff like that.
It may not even be stuff that exists right now. Again, going back to the Ironman model.
That's why I said like.
Yeah, I mean,
I literally meant it when I said like.
Okay. I thought you were just using space
filler
words.
word.
Yeah. So that will be one difference. Here's what I do think is actually going to come about. I could be wrong, and maybe it's just me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with the high level gravel racing. I don't think there's anything wrong with these prestigious Ironman-ish gravel destination events. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But I think the spirit of gravel is actually going to be 5 years from now, it's going to look a lot like gravel origins 10, 15 years ago.
More grassroots?
Very grassroots, very regional and local centric. So where the gravel disconnect kind of happened was gravel started getting popular when there weren't that many gravel events out there. So we're an example of that. We had people traveling from all across the country to come to Spinistry events.
We had people coming from other countries to go to Spinistry events.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we still do to some extent.
Sure.
But we never marketed to
Right.
we weren't trying to bring in these people from all. It's like they were coming because they wanted to ride gravel, and this is one of the few gravel events that did it.
Yeah.
I think and that got disconnected from about 2019 to now we're still in the throes of it, where so many of the gravel events were focusing on how can I be the next biggest gravel event? How can I pull people from other states, from other countries,
Right.
and so forth? That's a saturated market now, I think.
Yeah.
And they're just going to start cannibalizing themselves in those big events. I think.
And then it's just going to be who has the most money to throw at.
Basically.
Yeah.
I think the real growth in gravel is going to be at the local and regional level.
That makes sense.
Well,
where you're catering to your local folks.
Which is what it should be, and it's hard anyway.
I will say, in the 3 years that we've been members of Lifetime Fitness, our fees have gone up every year. So we're the ones that are paying. I'm paying for this prize purse, and I'm paying for these events. I mean, and not to. You probably have some more thoughts, but we can all agree that there is a level of trendiness in cycling. It ebbs and flows. We've talked about what's coming in and when it come out. all it takes is something new to spark people's interest, and those registrations start dwindling a little bit at Unbound and these bigger races, and then all of a sudden, like, they're going to fizzle out a little bit. My question to you is, I see this as a possibility. I don't know if it's probable. I'm not predicting it, but like, is this sustainable for what Lifetime's doing? The amount of money that they're throwing into this, and are they really getting?
Somebody's crunching the numbers right now.
I want to know what the return is on. I mean, when I went last year to Unbound, it blew me away how big like just the bike expo and the entire town shut down. And how are they putting up this much money?
Well, and make no mistake, it existed to some extent like that before Lifetime took over. Lifetime just came in and fluffed it up a lot.
But they're spending so much on production and marketing and all. They're putting 10 times as much money into it. It
got to a precipice where the town on its own and with its own resources could not support the growth trajectory that Unbound was on.
And that is in this. The main story in this is Chemo buying or being a part of the purchase of Unbound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
when Jim Cummings started it started as a much smaller event, and
34 people were the first.
Yeah, and they didn't shut down the entire town at that point. And then by the time I did it in 2011, it was a full town event, and like to the point where every shop was participating. You know, all the stores, the food places and stuff were staying open late for the finishers, and the local beer companies were showing up. And I mean, it make no mistake, it was a full town event at that point. And then Lifetime just came in and kind of put that corporate sponsor, like, made it seem a lot more put together, if you will, you know? So
I mean, ultimately, is Lifetime getting a positive return on investment? I have no idea. I mean, that's outside my scope. And is the business model to drive entry fees to cover all these costs, or is the business model to get more Lifetime memberships? I don't know where their focus is, so I can't.
Nor do we know what their scope is either. Are they looking to do this over a 10-year period? Or are they looking at, well, this year sucked, let's shut it down? You know, are they looking to build it exponentially every year? Yeah. Or, you know, are they looking to get to a goal of 10 years from now, we need to be at this point, you know?
The other interesting thing that I've noticed when I got my confirmation that I registered, both years, when I got my confirmation that I made it in, when I was there, I don't ever recall reading or seeing them trying to promote their gym memberships, which is interesting to me. I never, like, you would think you would walk by and see a giant, massive, the biggest footprint there would be the title sponsor. Join our gym. Here's
come on, you're a marketing guy. You know how branding works.
I would have totally expected that as a marketing and branding guy. Like, if that's...
This is just a guesstimate on my part, but going back to Leadville. So I think, like, when they first acquired Leadville, because it is limited capacity, I think they tried to use that as a marketing tool to drive memberships.
They used it as leverage.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It was very cunty, in my opinion.
I'm not going there. It was.
You don't have to.
It was obvious that was the approach. I think they learned from your perspective there that they couldn't be that
exclusive,
blatant about it.
Yeah. It's like if you hosted an event and said only Spanish Tree members are allowed to enter this event.
We do that.
Well, but it's not cunty.
It's free. Yeah. Okay, and that goes to my next. So along those lines, and I think Lifetime's established. As long as they want to be the premier series, their position. They may have to accelerate things at some point to stay ahead of somebody else, sort of thing. But they're positioned to stay at the top there. But in turn, if for those that aren't at the top, I'm not going to name specific events or anything like that. But in a couple weeks or a week from this weekend, there's the Valley of the Tears race out by Turkey.
I know nothing about it.
Have you all seen this one?
I don't know anything about it. Who puts it on?
Not exactly. I not exactly sure.
Stand by. I'm firing up the war dialer.
I think I know who's involved, but I don't want to misspeak. So
that's fair.
So it's a $20 entry fee.
Valley of the Tears.
Valley of the Tears. It's a $20 entry fee, and they have $26,000 in prizes.
Wow.
Wait, say that one more time. $20 entry fee, and they have $26,000
$26,000 in prizes. $13,000 for the open men's, $13,000 for the open women's.
Wow. That's tremendous. March 9th. Huh.
I don't know how it works.
They got a great site, too.
So
that's sexy.
There's some... Who's ever capitalizing on this? I don't know who it is, and I don't know what their business model is.
This is part of the rat, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 They fucking stole your route, Kevin.
No, they did not.
Wow, the sign up. Sophia's going to be there. Keegan, Ted, Alex Howes, Emily Newsom. Who else do I recognize?
And you don't have those people show up
at a $20 event unless there's a purse.
Well, and they don't. It's just a guess on my part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, if I'm misspeaking, please don't take it the wrong way. I'm assuming these people that are showing up on the cover page as attendees are being compensated to attend.
Yeah,
that is an assumption on my part.
Sure.
I don't think it's an unrealistic assumption. That's kind of a normal part of that level of event now. Not lifetime.
Is that fairly transparent, or is that okay? So the normal person doesn't realize that, oh, so-and-so is here.
No, I don't want to speak to that specific. That's what I'm saying. I'm assuming that's the case here. I know it's the case with other events. So but I don't want to paint the picture that I'm creating a negative here. That's what I was talking about. These higher level events are going to start pricing themselves out. From only so many of these events can support bringing in the pros, and so now this is a $20 entry fee.
But there's no sponsors.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, there are.
The two title sponsors are Hill Sports Shop, which is a bike shop, and then Pharos, which is a medical cost containment company.
Where are you seeing that?
Fest. It's in the big section that says prize purse, just above the racers.
Presenting sponsor. Okay, I see it now.
But that said, they could be listed as the presenting sponsor, but that's not really the money source. There's so many pieces to this. Again, going back to the guy that handed out those booklets for the New Mexico and Southern Colorado. It could be the Panhandle of Texas chambers of commerce getting together saying, hey, we want to raise awareness. Yeah, this is going to cost us $100,000.
It could be the tourism board.
It could be the tourism. This is going to cost us $100,000 right now, but all of these people are going to be aware of coming to this area to recreate now.
Right.
Who knows?
And procreate.
Everybody goes there when you use recreate in that form. What do people have on their mind?
I don't know.
But anyway, so... we went round and round. So
yeah, we did.
Does that kind of outline what I think it'll be like in 5 years? It'll be very segmented, I think, is the best way to explain it. There'll be very distinct disciplines within gravel.
My prediction 5 years from now, short and concise, is gravel won't look like it does now. You won't have as many gravel events. You'll have more multi-surface events, a la rule of three. I think that, as we've discussed previously, gravel is a receding commodity at this point, and putting together cohesive routes is going to be increasingly difficult, and people are going to see the allure of changing surfaces in a ride, and I think in the boldest of what I'm going to say is I think it could possibly lead to not a whole nother bike category, but a different style of gravel bike, if you will. I think in the lines of cutthroats and stuff like that, I think they're going to get more popular.
Watch the Dylan Johnson stuff. He's all over that. Yeah, 2-inch tire, 29er drop bar.
Yeah.
But that actually, you touch on a really good point that I don't want to miss out on, because it was something I was thinking about on the drive over, and it ties into this. We're seeing it now. There's very much let's go back to the Disney World or Six Flags analogy sort of thing. It's real easy when you live in Orlando to say, oh, I'm not going to Disney World now. It's always here. I can just do it whenever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on in gravel now. There are so many gravel events where it used to be you had to make an effort to go to any gravel event. There's so many gravel events now. I'm not saying people are tired of them, but it does take effort to go do a gravel ride. You don't just roll out of your front door in most areas and go on a 100-mile gravel ride.
Unless you're Austin Whittington, you just ride to the event, stomp everybody's chest.
Yeah, I said most people have to jump through some hoops to go do a long day of gravel, one way or another. So it's real easy to push that off. I'm not feeling it this weekend. There's another gravel ride next weekend. I'll go do that. So there is a little bit of that going on, and I think that will tie into what you're talking about on the multi-surface thing, where when people can do rambles and multi-surface stuff and incorporate these other things, I think that will become more of a thing. I agree with you there. And
it just puts more adventure into gravel.
And I think, but I think it's a byproduct of. Also, it goes back to what I was saying. I think there's going to be more of a mountain bike scene 5 years from now, too. I really do. You are going to have more of these gravel riders that are doing more adventurous things, and I need a 2-inch tire bike. I want to know how to ride single track, and I will get my feet wet crossing this creek or whatever else. And how about you, Caleb? What are you thinking?
I'm interested to see back to the question that I asked you: how sustainable are these big, massive, big spender events? Like, I'm looking at this Valley of Tears gravel. It's next week and it's not sold out.
Yeah, it's wild.
And they've got $26,000. That's concerning.
And it's a $20 entry fee.
Yeah,
but how? I mean,
but it's so far from anywhere.
That's what I was just about to say. Turkey is a travel.
I mean, I've had people telling me for years, "Oh, Kevin, you gotta do something out of Turkey." It's like, I can't get people to go. I can get like 40 people to show up if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a really good job of on their lodging page. Like, they have all this. They have all these towns broken down by minutes of how far away, and all these links to places to stay. That's cool. So they recognize that there's not a lot in Turkey. There's 2 places to stay in Turkey anyway.
It's a 10 a.m. start. So that's telling you, they're expecting people to roll from Amarillo or whatever.
Yes, they definitely are. I mean, they all the way out from. They've got listings all the way out to from Canyon, which is an hour and 20.
And make no mistake, I am wishing this event all the success in the world. These are that's some fantastic riding out there.
I'm sad I didn't even know about it.
That's my ancestral heritage area.
Oh yes, Mr. Wills.
Mr. Wills. Yes, I feel like I should call them and get a free entry and free lodging as a blood relative of the King of Swing.
Now, along those lines, to be fair, in the middle of all of our COVID stuff, I did actually highly consider doing a turkey-based event.
Turkey basted?
Turkey basted?
I beat you.
Do you brine it?
I fucking beat you. Always brine. Always brine. If you have the time, brine.
Yeah. Make the time to brine.
And I reached out to the folks in Turkey, and they were really, really proud of their amenities and facilities there. It just to show up and do a basic club spinstry thing was going to cost me like $2,500. It's like I can't do that.
I mean, they had that big pavilion right there off the highway. Stopped and eating lunch there. But other than that, there's the hotel and there's an RV park, and that's it.
And Allsup's.
So here's another hidden sponsor in here. When you look at the rules and regs, Never Second, who is a company I've never heard of. Not to say that they're not anybody, they just weren't on my map. They make, gels, like gel packs, and
that's interesting.
Oh, Keegan Swinson is an ambassador for them.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And to bring it full circle, one of their packages you can buy has recovery fuel, gels, a water bottle, and like powder drink mix, hydration mix, and it's called the Ultimate Leadville Mountain Bike Pack. So, because we were talking about Leadville earlier. So,
who is behind this? Our story.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting.
Let's save that deep dive for after we should turn off the podcast, and maybe we should go ahead and turn. Anything else that was on the to-do list for today?
I had something else, but I can't even remember now. Well, we'll save it for next time. It wasn't
sure?
time sensitive. Man, go ride your bike, people.
Definitely go ride your bike. And
e-bike. Not one mention of an e-bike this podcast.
Well, you just screwed that up.
I know. I did it on purpose. We can't go a full episode.